What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on First Take, they're going to be talking about how 73% of the players voted Michael Jordan as being the GOAT. So let's see what they have to say about that.
What's your biggest problem with the results?
Well, you mentioned Bill Russell. It's good that you did. Wilt, at least people see in those grainy color, footage of like when the Lakers won championships, at least in the early 70s, so you feel like he's more of a modern player. From what you just saw on that list, the way that's listed, the fact that Kareem is so low. Kareem and LeBron, it's not clear who's going to go down as number 2 behind Jordan. I think it's hilarious, by the way, that still Stephen A.
So people not really voting or really knowing about Kareem as a product of the times. People are living in the moment, and there's a whole nother generation that doesn't know or actually had a chance to see Kareem Abdul Jabbar play. So that's probably why. But let's keep going.
Jordan gets over 70% of the vote, even with all these young players' recency biases. But I'll tell you what, where's Larry Bird in all this? He doesn't even make the list, even honorable mentions. People forget, and history's sort of been rewritten in terms of revisionism of Larry Bird in that era. Like Magic is considered greater because he won 5 championships to Bird's 3. And he became the best player in the world, at a later date than Bird did, so a little more recent. But when they were both in their primes, Bird was better than Magic. Like, it was really close, but he was the one who won 3 straight MVPs. Bird was as good a passer as any. If you want to say Magic Johnson's the greatest passer ever, okay, fine. Bird is right there. Bird was an amazing rebounder. He's an incredible scorer, shooter, the whole thing. And when he joined the Celtics, they were like a 20-something win team. They went to a 60-something win team, adding a rookie, Larry Bird. Larry Bird is like the forgotten man. He was Michael Jordan before there was Michael Jordan. He was like that.
Again, people forget about Larry Bird because it's the product of the times. People are living in the moment. There's a whole generation that never saw Larry Bird play. And Magic has more rings than Larry Bird, 5-3. So that's all that is going to help people forget about Larry Bird, the greatness that was Larry Bird. So let's keep going.
Alpha of the NBA, and then Jordan showed up and was even better. But people just forget about Bird. And then the other omissions, Stephen A., Wilt, you go back, and Bill Russell, you go back. Where's Shaq? People forgot about Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal was completely unstoppable. So that's my beef.
Well, I don't think about Shaq in that regard because the first order of business I think about is Kareem Abdul Jabbar. Kareem Abdul Jabbar, listen, you see stuff like this and you just wonder why are people even allowed to vote? What's there to talk about? Kareem Abdul Jabbar, 19-time All-Star. He's the greatest scorer in the history of basketball.
Can you say that again? How many time All-Star?
A 19-time All-Star. He's the greatest scorer in the history of basketball. He's the all-time leading scorer in the history of basketball. The greatness of Michael Jordan, who averaged over 30 about 9 times or whatever, couldn't eclipse Kareem Abdul Jabbar, and he is the only person in the history of basketball. And I didn't even bring up the 6 rings, by the way. He's the only person in the history of basketball that is associated with one unstoppable move. From the time he was a kid to the time he was old and about to retire in his 40s, he is the only person that to the day he walked away from basketball had a move that no one ever could stop in his entire career.
Stephen A.
So I would say that fadeaway jumper by Jordan is a strong second to the skyhook, a very strong second. But that's just my opinion. Other people might throw something else, but my opinion, that fadeaway jumper by Jordan, it comes in second as to the second all-time unstoppable move to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's skyhook. But that's just me. Let's keep going.
And oh, by the way, he has as many championships as Michael Jordan. So to me, it's egregious that he only got 1.7%.
Okay, so I hate to stop you there, Stephen A. Smith. So probably because Jordan never lost in the finals. Jordan is 6-0 in the finals. Kareem is what? He's 6-4, I think. Don't quote me on that. But I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is 6-4 in the finals. So that's probably why. That's a major factor. You lose 4 to Jordan's not losing at all. That's where being a GOAT comes into play. Definitely, that's where being the GOAT comes into play. Being at 6-0. So let's keep going.
I think about Larry Bird. Here's what I think about. LeBron James is the greatest small forward that ever played basketball, in my opinion. He's the greatest. All right. But I don't want LeBron over Bird in the last 2 minutes. I want to give it to Bird. I want the ball in Larry Bird's hands in the last 2 minutes, because before there was Jordan, there was Magic with Bird, and there is no one who went against Bird that Bird did not strike fear in. I didn't say respect, because they're all respected, but fear. You were petrified in going up against Larry Bird, because at 6'8", all he needed to do most of the time was get the shot off without it being blocked. And you.
I completely agree, Stephen A. Smith. Larry Bird was a beast. And the last 2 minutes of the game, I would definitely take Larry Bird overtaking LeBron James. Now, maybe the rest of the game, before the 2 minutes, we can argue about when would you want Larry Bird or LeBron James. But that last 2 minutes clutch situation, I would definitely take Larry Bird over LeBron James. So let's keep going.
Literally praying it didn't go in,
and
because
by the way,
he was that great of a sniper.
Like LeBron, his court vision was you could say it's not unparalleled, because Magic too, right? But Bird could pass it practically like Magic and had that kind of court vision at the small forward, power forward position, but then he could shoot it a whole lot better than Magic. And by the way, Bird would average 10, 11 rebounds a year too. He was a basketball genius, and 3 consecutive MVPs. He ran the NBA. Larry Bird ran the NBA, the alpha, and he was contemporaries with Magic and better in his prime. Sorry, even if that.
But you see, the thing is, nobody cares about MVPs when someone else has more rings than they do. Because what really counts is what you do and how you get those rings. That's all that counts. It doesn't matter if you get MVPs every single year and if you don't win the championship, because then really that's all for nothing. It's all for nothing. So let's keep going.
Have a better career. That's 1. 2, Kareem. Stephen A., the reason Kareem had the unstoppable move with the skyhook is because when he was in college, they outlawed the dunk. Know why? Because of Kareem Abdul Jabbar, then Lou Alcindor. When you count in college, the fact that he had 3 championships in college as maybe the greatest college player who ever lived, then turns pro, and you mentioned the all-time scoring leader, 19-time All-Star, 6-time champion. When you take accomplishments over a basketball career, who was better than Kareem? You know, and when all is said and done, I know Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player who ever lived. The number 2, like, he took that really from Kareem.
Guys, also the other thing we had tied for the 5th spot, Kevin Durant. Is he already a top 5 player all time?
Well, he's a top 5 talent. When you look at what transpired, what Kevin Durant is made of. He's damn near 7 feet tall with a handle and a J. He's a sniper extraordinaire. He's a career 27-point-per-game scorer. He could have played in any era. He's a scoring machine. That's what he brings to the table. So he's definitely a top 5 talent. The problem is that because he didn't win a chip until he got to Golden State, you have people who would be inclined to disregard him because Bird didn't go anywhere. And, Kareem ultimately was moved and went from Milwaukee to L.A. And Jordan didn't go anywhere. And Kobe didn't go anywhere. You look at it and you say people are holding against KD that he left OKC to go to Golden State, which might explain why there's all this noise about the likelihood of him leaving.
See, but when at that point, when people want to talk about how he moved and the trades and moving around that he did versus his numbers, that's when you have to tell people, set aside how he got to their team or when he got to their team. That's when you need to look at his straight up numbers, because the numbers won't lie to you. Don't worry about what team he was with or how he did. It's look at his numbers, look at his stats, and a lot of people can't get past that and just look at that because of the move that he did, which arguably he might not have the championships he had if he hadn't gone to Golden State. But as far as looking at the numbers wise and the stats and things of that nature, I think he's definitely up there. And for Stephen A. to say he's a top 5 talent, being a top 5 talent is being different than being the top 5 player ever. Because you can be a top 5 talent, but your production plays out to being a less than top 15 player. So there's a difference there that I wish Stephen A. would have made a more distinction to. So let's keep going.
To depart for other pastures.
Yeah.
I would say KD, you're right, is a talent. He's a player really without a weakness. Like what he doesn't pass the ball like LeBron or Magic or Bird or even the Greek Freak or someone like that. But he can pass the ball. He can put the ball on the floor. He can score from anywhere on the court. He's not a ball stopper. He can score in the flow of the game, out in transition, whatever. As you said, he's almost 7 feet tall. He's turned himself into.
So let me stop Max right there before the video is over. I would say Max says that Kevin Durant doesn't really have any weakness because he does everything well, if not great. I would say one of Kevin Durant's weaknesses that might hurt him in the long run is his personality. It's not in his personality to be a cutthroat killer like LeBron, Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. It's just not in his nature to be a vicious animal like that, an unforgiving animal. Because if he was, I bet you he would take over the all-time points from Kareem Abdul Jabbar. Kevin Durant should go down as being the best basketball player ever with the potential that he has, but his only weakness is he just doesn't have that cutthroat gene in him. Because if he did, he would be unstoppable. Just imagine if Kevin Durant had the same personality as Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. The viciousness of that. Kevin Durant would be unstoppable. So I think that because of that, he doesn't have that cutthroat gene. He may not make it to being a top 5 or to being the best player ever, unless some things change in the future with the next 10 years. And I think his personality is pretty much set. But if he had, like I said, Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan's personality of being a cutthroat killer, oh man, Kevin Durant would be a hog. So let's keep going.
A great defender. He always makes the proper basketball play. The one thing I think he needs, Stephen A., is to be able to, because he always makes the proper play, he's the kind of player that we haven't yet seen impose himself on the game, other than the Warriors, where they have an overwhelming advantage. But like impose himself on the game to the point that he wills a team that's no better than